Alright guys, Aston Villa have just lost their 5th consecutive Premier League game to Southampton, or the noises in the background of fireworks is Guy Fawkes night, bonfire night, whatever you want to call it. And basically, I've noticed in these videos a lot, I just have moments where I go, so what I've done is I've made notes from like what I was thinking throughout the game, and I just go through them basically. So Southampton started the game brilliantly, got a goal in, I think it was the 2nd minute through Adam Armstrong, brilliant strike, just long ball over the top. I think it came off Matty Cash. Che Adams was chasing it, and it's fallen to Armstrong on the half volley with his left foot, and he's hammered it into the back of the net, not really giving Martinez much of a chance to save it. Yeah, that made it 1-0, and there were a few cases in the first half where there was just some poor Aston Villa defending. There was a moment in the first half where there was a corner, and Stuart Armstrong really should have scored from the opportunity, and he put it miles over the bar. It was a really bad miss. But Aston Villa defensively, there was about 6 players crowded in one position, and not one Villa player has picked up Stuart Armstrong at the back post. He had about at least 5-6 yards of space to himself, and he really should have scored. And also El Ghazi for Villa was very lucky to stay on the pitch in the first half. There were probably 3 moments where he should have been booked. The first one was just a casual foul. He got booked for it, rightly so. Then about 2 minutes later, he makes a silly foul on Livramento. He's pulled him back as Livramento tried to get away. It was a yellow card. He should have been booked. And then about 5 to 10 minutes later, he's dribbling in the Southampton box. He goes past James Ward-Prowse, and he's one of the worst dives I've ever seen. Definitely a yellow card. So he should have had 3 yellow cards. But despite this, he was probably Villa's best attacking player in the first half, El Ghazi. Bailey wasn't able to really contribute much. Same with Buendia. Buendia was just completely missing in the first half. And Watkins pretty much had no service. So it was only McGinn and El Ghazi were really doing anything going forward for Villa in the first half. And also I thought Leon Bailey in particular had a poor first half. There were so many times where, like, Southampton was so much better than Villa the first half, but down the left-hand side for Southampton, Carl Walker-Peters and El Younisi were just like doubling up on Matty Cash, and Matty Cash actually did really well in the first half to deal with what they were producing on the left-hand side, especially how he had nobody helping him. Leon Bailey was 30 yards up the pitch, just standing around doing nothing really. But there were also a couple of shaky moments for Southampton in the first half. Mo Salisu, a centre-back, got really lucky a couple of times with a couple of really bad back passes. Fortunately, Alex McCarthy was quick off his line both times. And there was a moment I do want to talk about in the first half as well, where about 5 to 10 minutes in, the Aston Villa players were passing a note about a piece of paper. And I understand if it's like midway through the second half and the manager wants to get a message round to his players and he can't quite do it because obviously you've got the crowd and you're having to shout potentially 50 metres across the pitch to a player if they're on the other side of the pitch. But 5 minutes in, you're having to produce a piece of paper. before the game, you're supposed to be giving a team talk, telling the players what to do. Do it then. Don't do it when the game started. That wasn't a good look for Dean Smith. I'll be honest. And it was a complete lack of organisation from the Aston Villa defence, and that's been going on for more than this week. It's been going on for the past few weeks. And yeah, in the second half, Villa were a little better. They came out quite strong, but it's sort of died off as the half wore on. They didn't really create any chances, Villa, in the second half either. They had a bit of possession in the first 10 or 15 minutes, but it was in the final third quite a lot, but they weren't really creating anything. And they didn't really have anyone to bring on off the bench. They brought on Cameron Archer, Keenan Davis and Jacob Ramsey, all really failing to make much of an impact. But it does show that there is a bit of a lack of depth in the squad for Villa. And even in the second half, even though it was a lot more even, Southampton still had the better chances. Emiliano Martinez had to make a couple of decent stops to stop Southampton from doubling the lead. And yeah, Villa are definitely struggling at the moment. They're not the same side without Jack Grealish, and I wonder if this Jack Grealish move that happened in the summer is sort of like a bad move for all parties, because Man City have bought a player who needs to be he's one of those Wilf Zaha, maybe Felipe Coutinho players who is better suited at being the leader in the team, not leader, but I don't know if this is the right phrase, but the big fish in the small pond, if that makes sense. Because Grealish, since he's joined City, he's been all right, but he hasn't been great. He hasn't been £100 million worthy. I mean, that could still happen. We're only, 2 or 3 months into the season. Villa have lost a great player, and it looks as though haven't done the greatest job at replacing him, as Buendia hasn't really had the impact a lot of people thought he would. Bailey struggled with injuries, again, hasn't really had an impact. And Danny Ings, he's not really Grealish's replacement, is he? He's more just something to spend the money on. So Villa have lost their best player. City have signed a player who's just sort of another attacking option. And I wonder if Grealish will sort of regret leaving Villa, because obviously with City you're going to win trophies. You're not going to get that as much at Aston Villa. But also at Aston Villa you have the potential to be, I don't know if this is a bit too far, but one of the club's greatest ever players if he'd stayed on for the whole of his career, say. I don't know if that's a bit far, but it's possible. And also there's going to be a lot of pressure now on Dean Smith, and after it was sort of spoken about after the West Ham game last week, I was a bit hesitant to go towards Dean Smith should be under pressure. But the football he's getting his team to play, it isn't good enough, and it is really showing how important Jack Grealish was to that team. And I don't think they should sack him just yet, but if it continues after the international break, I think midway through December, if they've lost their last 2 or 3 games, then I think it might be the right thing to do. That might be a bit harsh, but Villa are very poor at the moment. Southampton were good tonight. Ward-Prowse was brilliant in midfield. However, I did think Oriol Romeu got a little bit lucky at times. Like there were two penalties he potentially could have given away. There was one for a high boot on Marvelous Nakamura in the first half. That one might have been a bit harsh because he did get the ball and didn't touch the man. But, you know, the rules are the rules. And the second half, I like Tyrone Mings has gone up for a header from a corner. And Romeo has grabbed a bit of his shirt. So that could have easily been a penalty. So, you know, on another day, we could be talking about an Aston Villa win if they had got the two penalties. But, you know... But Southampton overall were very good. And I do think Hasenhüttl gets too much of a rough ride. I think a lot of people just focus on, like, how can you be a good manager if your team has lost 9-0 in consecutive seasons? And I think he's a good manager for a mid-table side. That's what I think. Yeah. That's pretty much all I've got to say. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.